I finally finished the first half of One Piece, so in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every pre-time skip One Piece arc from worst to best. Because there are so many pre-time skip One Piece arcs, I'm only going to be counting the arcs that impact the story or we have confirmed information that it's not filler. So without further ado, let's get to the ranking. In dead last, we have the worst arc being the Buggy Adventures. This is basically just Buggy screen time, and it sucked. I probably would have considered it filler because it was basically just pointless, but then Alvida joined and I learned that it wasn't actually filler and I wasn't rotting my brain away. This arc is just so bad, and honestly, it should have just been a one episode thing. But nope, it goes on for way longer than one episode. So just watch the episode where Alvida joins and don't waste your time with any other episode. Number 25, Jaya. Now look, Jaya was an important arc as we do get introduced to Doflamingo and Blackbeard, and of course Luffy knocks out Bellamy in one punch. But there's just nothing that truly happens in this arc. It was basically just set up for Skypiea, and because of that, it's always going to be in the shadow of Skypiea. So, yeah, number 25 goes to Jaya. Number 24, Logtown. Logtown was really just set up for the Grand Line. We get introduced to characters like Smoker and Tashigi, but it really doesn't add anything with entertainment value. There were also random fillers, and I was never really invested because I just wanted to see them enter the Grand Line. And Daddy the Father was so built up to be such an insane character. This man had so much aura, and then he's just a throwaway character. Yeah, that was a huge letdown. Number 23 is Whiskey Peak. Although Whiskey Peak was the start of the Alabasta saga, it was just kind of meh. There wasn't much tension, the newly added characters weren't great, except you, and the main villains were just not interesting. Their devil fruit powers weren't even that cool, like this man's boogers are bombs! Ew! There are some good things like Zoro versus Luffy and Vivi, of course, but that cannot make up for the wrongs. It's so bad. Number 22, the Straw Hats separation. This focused on the Straw Hats when they were separated from the crew, and it was kinda solid. I liked seeing each of the islands the Straw Hats were on, except Sanji's, and all of it was genuinely entertaining. The reason it's so low is because there was such a lack of emotion. It was really hard to feel bad for them when they were barely focusing on trying to find each other. I definitely think it needed some work. Number 21, Reverse Mountain. Reverse Mountain was decent. It gave us Laboon, the goat, and this arc was just the start of the Grand Line. However, there isn't much that really happened in the arc. It really wasn't that entertaining and was more of a setup for Brook, which was like a few hundred episodes later. Number 20, Long Ring, Long Land. Alright, let me cook. Although most of this arc is very skippable, there's a charm to this arc that makes it better than the others before. All the different games that they played during the arc was really entertaining, and it genuinely was fun. And we can't forget about Afro Luffy, of course. We also get introduced to Aokiji during this arc, so that's a plus. Number 19, Kobe Meppo training arc. Call it filler if you want, but Kobe's training arc is really fun. Getting an arc focused on Kobe was pretty refreshing and added more to Kobe and Helmeppo's character. We also get introduced to Garp, which I didn't even know that was Garp at first. I love seeing these two characters get more screen time as Kobe didn't really get much before. Number 18, Amazon Lily. The follow-up to Sabaody was pretty decent. We meet characters like Boa, the Elder, and everyone else from Amazon Lily. We learn that Ace is about to be executed, which just set us up for Marineford. We also see Luffy using Conqueror's Haki for the first time, which was so cool and showed how much aura Luffy has. The reason it's so low on the list is because if you compare it to the other arcs, this arc is nothing. Number 17, Orangetown. Orangetown was really good as we got introduced to characters like Buggy and Nami. However, it doesn't open up in terms of animation and story. There were great moments with characters like Shushu and Buggy, but it doesn't have much to offer compared to other arcs. Number 16, Post Enies Lobby. Post Enies Lobby was really good. As we learned more about Luffy's family, we learned that his father was Dragon, the most wanted man ever, and we learned that his grandfather is a Marine. It also provided us with the awesome Ace versus Blackbeard fight. Frankie joined the crew and Usopp rejoined the crew. This honestly could have been so much higher, but they did give us some pointless filler. Number 15, Romance Dawn. The first arc of One Piece was really solid. The arc had great introductions to characters like Luffy, Kobe, and Zoro. Morgan was a really solid villain that was actually threatening, and I genuinely enjoyed the arc, and the live-action version was really solid. Truly an iconic arc. Number 14, Little Garden. After the disaster that was Whiskey Peak, this was the first truly good part of the Alabasta saga. We got an introduction to the giants of the One Piece world, Elbaf foreshadowing, Usopp growth, and the introduction of Mr. 3. This also set us up for the Drum Island arc with Nami getting sick, so this was just foreshadowing future arcs. Number 13, Syrup Village. Now look, some people may not like that I put it this high on the list, but hear me out, okay? We got introduced to characters like Usopp, Kaya, Captain Kuro, the Usopp Pirates, and the Going Merry. We basically got the first true fight in the show, and it was really good. It was genuinely a good arc that gets overshadowed by the newer arcs. It may not hold up in terms of animation, but I think it's really solid. Number 12, Baradier. Baradier was another really solid arc as we get introduced to characters like Sanji, Zeph, and Mihawk. We get really good moments in this arc that are still great even compared to newer arcs. We get the Luffy versus Don Krieg, Zoro versus Mihawk, Sanji joining the crew, and Nami betraying everyone, which set us up for the next arc. So this just kept building up to the epic finale of the East Blue. Number 11, Drum Island. One of the more emotional arcs. In this arc, we meet Chopper, which eventually ends up joining the crew. Chopper's backstory was amazing and it will make anyone cry. The only reason this arc is not in the top 10 is because of Womble. He was a really underwhelming and flat-out stupid villain. He was really weird, had a dumb character design, and was just downright a bad villain. So it can't quite make it in the top 10. Number 10, Post-War Arc. The post-war arc was really good. We learn more about Luffy and Ace's backstory, we see Luffy going through PTSD, and we even got to the time skip. It really had a lot of good moments going on in this arc. I guess my only complaint is that it doesn't have any standout fights, but that really wouldn't make sense for this arc anyways. Number 9, Impel Down. Impel Down was a really entertaining arc, as it had some of the highest tensions in all of One Piece. We got the return of several characters, the introduction of Jinbei, Luffy almost dying, and the goated sacrifice of Bon Clay. That was such a goated and flat-out amazing moment in all of One Piece. And to think this is only an appetizer to one of the biggest arcs in One Piece history. Number 8, Skypiea. Say what you will about Skypiea, but it's actually a really entertaining arc. We get one of the best villains ever, being an L, a literal all-out brawl in between a lot of the main characters of the show. We get one of Sanji's biggest flexes ever, and a climactic battle in which Luffy rings a golden bell. There's only really one complaint I have with it, and it's horrible pacing, which One Piece is actually known for. And also, Luffy vs. Enel was not as good as I wanted it to be, but Skypiea is still a really enjoyable and fun arc. Number 7, Sabaody Archipelago. Sabaody was a straight roller coaster. In this arc, we meet the first mermaid, get the introduction of Rayleigh and a bunch of fellow pirates, Luffy punches a freaking celestial dragon, Kuma shows up again, the introduction of Kizaru, and the Straw Hats end up getting separated. This was a shocker, as the arc was really lively at first, and then turned into one of the darkest arcs in the story. This arc was just genuinely good, and really entertaining. A great way to start the Summit War saga. Number 6, Water 7. Now look, I know technically that Water 7 and Enies Lobby are the same arc, but we're counting them as different arcs for this video. Water 7 was crazy. We got the introduction to Frankie, the intro to CP9, Robin and Usopp leaving the crew, and the twist that Lucci, Kaku, Blueno, and Caulifla were all evil. On top of that, we got the reveal that the Going Merry was not going to last much longer. There was so much going on in this arc that we basically had no room to breathe. This was also the first major arc that I watched One Piece in Japanese, so that is a plus. This was truly an awesome arc. Number 5, Thriller Bark. I know Thriller Bark is widely hated by the community, but I actually disagree with it. We actually get some of One Piece at its best during this arc. We get the introduction of Brook, a bunch of Scooby-Doo type stuff going on, people's shadow getting stolen, the foreshadowing of Wano, awesome fight scenes, and the awesome introduction of Kuma. And on top of that, we get one of the most insane moments in all of One Piece, and if you know, you know, it's Nothing Happened. And of course, we cannot talk about Thriller Bark without talking about, honestly, the best backstory in all of One Piece. 100% an underrated arc. Number 4, Alabasta. Alabasta felt like a true climactic finale. We got several awesome fights, including Zoro vs. Mr. One and Luffy vs. Crocodile. Vivi gets some spotlight, there's basically a war going on, and the introduction of Ace, and also Robin ends up joining the crew. This arc felt like a true climax to an epic saga, and the Vivi send-off was so iconic. This could have easily been number 1, but the next 3 are so good, so it'll have to be at number 4 for me. Number 3, Arlong Park. The finale of the East Blue Saga is so incredible. Arlong Park is easily One Piece's most iconic arc, and it's what made me get hooked on the show. After Baradier, the Straw Hats show up to save Nami. In this arc, we get Nami fake killing Usopp, Nami stabbing herself, Luffy giving his hat to Nami, the walk to Arlong Park, one of the best moments in the entire anime, and the awesome fight at Arlong Park. Luffy vs. Arlong is easily one of the best fights in the show, and I will always get chills watching this fight. This was my favorite One Piece arc for the longest time, but then these other two vastly are superior. Number 2, Marineford. Marineford felt like a true climax to the first half of One Piece. In this arc, we get the epic war at Marineford. This was an insane part of the story, as there were the Marines that were trying to execute Ace, Whitebeard who declared war on them to save Ace, and Luffy who was trying to rescue Ace. There were several hype moments during this arc that will give you chills and will leave you on the edge of your seat. This arc was so awesome and ended in one of the craziest ways ever. Blackbeard literally got Whitebeard's devil fruit after Whitebeard died, and Shanks had to show up and ended the war, which was absolutely insane. This was literally insane, and honestly is probably my favorite war arc in all of anime. I have one problem with this arc. One problem. And it honestly wouldn't make sense for me to even say that this is my problem with it. But my problem with it is that the Straw Hats are not together, which doesn't really feel like One Piece in my opinion. But it also kind of makes sense because the story was leading up to this moment, and I love it for that. I'm not really going to spoil what happens in the end because I don't want y'all who have never watched One Piece or are not at this part to know what happens. But all I'm going to say is, you are going to cry. And finally, the absolute best pre-time skip arc in all of One Piece is Enies Lobby. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I love this arc. This arc basically had everything I could ever want in One Piece. Awesome action, awesome story, and smooth animation. This arc gave us some of the best moments in the entire show, including Luffy using Gear 2, the Straw Hats burning a flag, I Wanna Live, Robin's backstory, Sogeking being the absolute MVP, 9 Sword Style Zoro, Diablo Jumbo Sanji, Gear 3, Luffy vs. Lucci, and the goodbye to the Going Merry. This arc was so amazing and exceeded all of my expectations. Luffy vs. Lucci is easily one of my favorite fights in anime history, and it's always gonna hold a special place in my heart. And that is why I believe that Enies Lobby is the best pre-time skip arc in One Piece history. Before y'all leave, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for 400 subscribers. I've only done YouTube for around 3 years, and it's awesome to think that we've gained so much in such a short time. I deeply appreciate you all, and I love you all for this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.
Till we meet again, guys!